humanity in our immigration system. I yield.
Mr. Beer.
Chairman Cornyn, Ranking Member Padilla, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. For nearly half a century, the Cato Institute's research has shown that people of any ancestry, background, or birthplace can be assets in a free society. America's immigrants exemplify this truth. Despite often leaving terrible conditions abroad, immigrants work, start businesses, and invent at higher rates than the U.S.-born population. Cato's recent analysis shows that immigrants reduced deficits by $11.5 trillion over the last 30 years, including about $140 billion in Minnesota. Although welfare fraud is a serious problem, immigrants aren't to blame. Non-citizens account for just 5% of welfare fraud losses, 31% less per capita than U.S. citizens. Rather than targeting entire ethnic groups, Congress should end the broken welfare systems, namely the oversight-free aid to states that led to all the fraud in Minnesota. But let's be clear, DHS isn't anti-fraud. DHS is itself openly carrying out the largest fraud in the history of the U.S. immigration system. DHS and the State Department are raking in billions of dollars in immigration fees and not providing the adjudications that applicants are entitled to.
All right, folks, buckle up because what we just watched from Channels Television titled, "This is a Scam." Witness tears into DHS for simply not processing immigration application deserves a serious conversation. Now, let me say this right out of the gate. I am a law and order patriot. I believe in borders. I believe in sovereignty. I believe in enforcing immigration law. And I absolutely believe that fraud, whether it's committed by individuals or by the federal government, must be exposed. But what we just heard in that testimony, that raises some big questions.
Is a scam. It is fraud. DHS's entire Minnesota operation is another kind of scam sold to the public on lies. DHS hasn't criminally charged anyone with fraud there, and 60% of its immigrant arrests in Minnesota have no criminal convictions or charges. DHS itself classifies just 8% of its arrests in Minnesota as the highest threat level, and 3/4 of arrests it classifies as not being a threat at all. Instead of arresting fraudsters, it's seeking to jail 5,600 legal vetted refugees, nursing mothers, single parents, long-term residents, already dragged away from their families without any evidence of fraud at all. Rather than a law enforcer, DHS has become the biggest lawbreaker in America today. In less than a year, DHS has attacked the First, the Second, the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Eighth, 10th, 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, the writ of habeas corpus, the independent judiciary, and much more. Every day, masked DHS agents detain Americans based on their race and demographics. They arrest legal immigrants for criticizing their foreign policy and Americans for recording them doing it. They threaten, assault, and even shoot people for exercising their First and their Second Amendment rights. They break into our homes without judicial warrants. They sentence legal immigrants to foreign prisons without trials. They are trying to strip the citizenship of Americans born in this country. They detain people without lawful basis, and they ignore court orders to release them. And of course, they lie about all of it. Combating fraud and upholding the rule of law is important, but the public cannot have faith in that effort by an administration that regularly gets away with fraud, lies, and lawlessness. Even the FBI supervisor and the 14 U.S. attorneys in Minnesota who were responsible for leading the welfare fraud effort there lost faith. They quit because of DHS's operation there. We need accountability. The Supreme Court has said Congress hasn't authorized Americans to sue immigration agents for constitutional violations. So fix it. No more absolute immunity, as the White House says. The new standard, absolute accountability. Anything less would be a fraud. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz.
The witness from the Cato Institute came in swinging. He accused the Department of Homeland Security of collecting billions in immigration fees and then not processing applications. He called it a scam. He called it fraud. He said the administration is pocketing money from hardworking Americans and their families and not even reviewing their cases. Now hold on. If that is true, and I stress if that is unacceptable, because here's the thing the left never understands about conservatives. We are not anti-immigrant. We are anti-lawlessness. There's a difference. We believe in legal immigration. We believe in merit-based systems. We believe that if someone follows the rules, waits in line, pays the fees, and goes through the vetting process, the government has a duty to process that application honestly and efficiently. You don't take thousands of dollars from families and then sit on the paperwork. That's not enforcement. That's bureaucratic rot. Now, the witness also highlighted something interesting. He said immigrants contribute to the economy at high rates. He cited data claiming immigrants reduce federal deficits over decades. He argued non-citizens account for a small percentage of welfare fraud. Let's unpack that. Conservatives aren't afraid of facts. If immigrants who follow the law contribute to the economy, great. That strengthens the case for legal immigration done correctly. But here's where I part ways with the libertarian-style framing we heard. America is not just an economic zone. It's a sovereign nation. We don't measure immigration purely in dollars and cents. We measure it in national security, cultural stability, rule of law, and whether the system actually works for American citizens first. And that's where DHS comes in. The witness accused DHS of arresting large numbers of immigrants in Minnesota without criminal convictions. He claimed most were classified as non-threats. He accused DHS of overreach constitutional violations, ignoring court orders, even targeting people based on race. Now listen carefully. If federal agents are violating constitutional rights, that must be investigated. No federal agency is above the Constitution. Not DHS. Not anyone. But here's the problem with how this narrative is being framed. We are in the middle of a border crisis that didn't fall from the sky. It was created by weak policy, executive overreach, and years of signaling to the world that America's border is optional. Millions cross illegally. Cartels made billions. Fentanyl poured in. Human trafficking exploded. So yes, DHS is under pressure. Yes, enforcement actions increased. Yes, the system is overwhelmed. But whose fault is that? The American people didn't create this chaos. Politicians did. Now let's go back to the fee issue, because that's serious. If DHS and the State Department are collecting billions in processing fees and simply not adjudicating applications from 90-plus countries, that's not a partisan issue. That's corruption or incompetence. Possibly both. And conservatives hate bloated, unaccountable bureaucracy more than anyone. We believe government should be limited, efficient, transparent, and accountable. You cannot preach compassion while running a dysfunctional system that harms both American citizens and legal applicants. And let's be crystal clear about something else. Legal refugees, nursing mothers, long-term residents, spouses of U.S. citizens. If they are legally vetted and in compliance with the law, the government has no business treating them like criminals without due process. But, and this is a big, but if someone is here illegally, overstays a visa, lies on paperwork, commits fraud, or poses security risk, they should be removed. Period. The rule of law is not optional. The witness ended by calling for Congress to remove immunity protections and create absolute accountability. That's interesting. Because for years, conservatives have been saying something similar about federal agencies, that unelected bureaucrats operate with too much protection and too little oversight. The administrative state has grown out of control. And here's the deeper issue. When government loses credibility, both sides lose faith. If DHS is perceived as lawless, enforcement becomes harder. If immigration processing is frozen, legal pathways collapse. If court orders are ignored, the Constitution weakens. And when that happens, chaos fills a vacuum. As a patriot, here's where I stand. Secure the border first. Completely. Enforce existing immigration law. Eliminate incentives for illegal entry. Reform and streamline legal immigration. Audit DHS finances and processing systems. Hold bureaucrats accountable if they are failing their duties. America must be strong. But strength is not lawlessness. Strength is discipline. Strength is order. Strength is fairness applied consistently. The American people deserve a system that works. Legal immigrants deserve a system that functions. And taxpayers deserve transparency about where billions in fees are going. The left wants open borders. The bureaucrats want bigger budgets. But patriots? We want a secure nation, functioning institutions, and a government that actually follows the Constitution it swore to uphold. If DHS is failing to process applications while cashing checks, fix it. If fraud exists in welfare systems, fix it. If agents violate constitutional rights, investigate it. But do not use bureaucratic dysfunction as an excuse to abandon enforcement. Law and order must apply to everyone's citizens, immigrants, and federal agencies alike. Because at the end of the day, America works when the law means something. And when it doesn't, the American people notice. If you believe in borders, sovereignty, constitutional accountability, and a government that actually works for the people, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.